Hey folks, it's Matt once again, and welcome back to another review for the Stallone Marathon. I know it's a different kind of lighting for this. This is one of those movies that I'm not sure how long this video will be, because I don't have much to say about this film. Reach Me is a 2014 drama, which you look at the cast, and it's quite a cast. I mean, you have Sylvester Stallone in it, Kelsey Grammer, Terry Crews, Thomas Jane, Tom Berenger, Terry Elwes, Kyra Sedgwick, Tom Sizemore, Danny Aiello, Danny Trejo. But it's one of those films that, despite that cast, it's much ado about nothing. It's a boring, pretentious, it thinks it's going in this motivational, uplifting message, but it's kind of just wandering. It's one of those films where it's little pieces of people's lives, and then by the end of the film, they've all come together for this one event that happens. And it's just one of those flicks that seems as if it's almost as if you're changing channels at one point. The better explain it. First off, this is directed by the guy who did 15 Minutes with Robert De Niro. He also did a film called 2 Days in the Valley. A guy named John Herzfeld. And the gist of the story, you have Tom Berenger, which he does fine for the little bits he has. He's an author of this motivational book called Reach Me. And he's in seclusion. And we have certain different pieces of story. We have one story where this guy, played by Kevin Connolly, he's a guy who wants to be a novelist, but he works at writing these gossip pieces. He works for Sylvester Stallone, who's in the film for probably 8 minutes total. He appears 3 times in the film. Once in the beginning section, once in the middle, which is, to me, the one good scene of the movie, which you can find on YouTube. It's where he rips this guy apart verbally. You're a figure painting! Be a masterpiece! That one scene there is pretty damn good acting from Stallone. Shows that he could be a great villain in a newer film. And then he appears one more time at the end. And like, Stallone's role, him and Tom Berenger's okay, but he's like the one thing I liked about the flick. The rest of it, getting back to the story. Sylvester Stallone, he's a publisher guy working with this gossip site. He wants the story about this author who's in seclusion who wrote this book called Reach Me. So he gets Kevin Connolly to try to find him. Then you have one bit of the story where you have these two guys who work for Tom Sizemore, who's a bad guy, and these two guys, one's a Scottish fella and his friend, who are told to go to this one place, break this guy's nose, and shoot his dog. And one of them read this book called Reach Me, and he doesn't want to do this anymore. And he convinces his buddy to not do this anymore. Like, hey, you always wanted to be a cook, and I'd work in a kitchen. Let's leave Tom Sizemore. Let's do our own thing. Then you have another story with Kyra Sedgwick, who is getting out of prison, and she gets picked up by someone she knows, and she perhaps wants to work with knitting, work with making dresses. You have another story, which is Thomas Jane, who's a cop, who at times, when he's faced off against the bad guys, he'll shoot them. Not in cold blood, but in self-defense. Which I'm thinking, well, what's the problem here? He's shooting these bad guys in self-defense. One bad guy is Danny Trejo, who's in the film about this much. And Thomas Jane, each time he kills a criminal in self-defense, he goes to Danny Aiello, who's a priest, and asks for forgiveness. You have this woman who's doing this sex scene for a movie, and the scene she's doing it with is Terry Elwes, who has this accent. He's a dickhead who kind of fondles her the wrong way, and she's upset. And she knows Kyra Sedgwick, and they're both driving, and they accidentally hit Thomas Jane's car. And then Thomas Jane falls in love with the girl who's with Kyra Sedgwick. And it cuts between all these little stories. Like Terry Crews, he's in there because he's a guy who knew Tom Berenger, and he has a couple lines of dialogue. The one guy working for Stallone, Kevin Connolly, he finds Tom Berenger, and Tom Berenger doesn't want anything to do with it because he doesn't want to speak in public. Later on, you find out because he's afraid of public places. It gives him anxiety. But you have a moment where the lead guy says he wants to quit smoking, but he can't, and Tom Berenger pretty much tells him to look at the ocean. And apparently, if you say your name and I don't smoke 100 times or whatever, then you just don't smoke anymore. One of the least Connolly, he ultimately convinces Tom Berenger to go to this meeting at the end of the film outside this public place, and pretty much everyone's there. The two guys who they weren't hitmen, but they were people that would punch you if Thomas More tells you to. Kyra Sedgwick's there, Thomas Jane is there, Danny Aiello's there, everyone's there. Sylvester Stallone fires the lead guy, and in a way, Stallone is the one who gets Tom Berenger to actually go out there and talk with the public. And I'm not sure if him and Tom Berenger were in the same scene together, because you never see them both in the same frame. It's like someone's talking, like I'm here, and then you see the back of someone's face, and then another person's talking, and then you see the back of someone's face here. So I don't know if they were in the same scene. I don't know what the deal was. And then by the end, Tom Sizemore has those two guys that left him, and then Thomas Jane tries to stop him because he's a cop, and then Tom Berenger tries to smooth things over, and Thomas Jane stops Tom Sizemore, but he gets shot, but he has a bulletproof vest. The dog comes up and bites Tom Sizemore on the nose, and then it's months and months later, the lead guy who is fired, he's with this other girl, and he's written his novel. Those two guys who used to work with Tom Sizemore, and they now run a kitchen. Tom Berenger is now with Kyra Sedgwick. Thomas Jane is with that one woman and is still friends with Danny Aiello. And it's just one of those movies I watch and I go, this scene's very... I almost want to say random, but it's... One reviewer on here says disjointed, and that's the best word I could use. It's very disjointed. It's a dull, boring movie. It's very forgettable. You have a bunch of actors wasted on a nothing movie that thinks it's going to deliver this big message, and it really doesn't. I guess it's trying to be, I haven't seen the film, but I've heard of it, Crash, the ensemble piece that has Matt Dillon and Sandra Bullock and Don Cheadle and so forth, which, again, I've heard things about it, good and bad. And this movie seems like it's trying to be that, but it's not. It just feels pretentious. It feels like it's much ado about nothing. It's just a very boring, dull flick. The only thing I could say worth a shit was Stallone's. I thought Stallone had a really good scene in this movie when he's painting, and he's really ripping the shit out of the lead guy verbally. And I wish I could find, maybe I can find quotes for it, because it's on YouTube, and if I can remember, I'll put the link down below for you to see the scene. That way you don't have to see the movie. Maybe I'll find the quotes to it. I think it's actually on here. Yeah, he plays a guy named Gerald, and he's yelling at the lead guy, and he goes, "So what? What do you mean you haven't eaten, or you have no breakfast? When you're on a mission, nothing else matters. Not food, not hygiene, not women. I'll throw my mother under a bus. Under 4 buses to complete a mission. See, that's the difference between you and me. Not saying I'm proud of it, because I'm not, but when I'm focused on something, everything around me dies. I try to bring her back to life later on, but it stays dead until I complete the mission. Whereas you try to keep everything alive. That's why you're a loser. You're the 3rd man through the door. You're a fart catcher. You're either toothless or you're ruthless. Now you go out and find this guy, because his destruction is your salvation. His demise is your transition from jerk-off to journalist. You're a finger painting. Be a masterpiece. Now get out. I'm flowing." Whatever you think about that dialogue, actually, the way Stallone said that made me enjoy it. The way Stallone just gave such a intensity. I'm like, man, give this guy a good role as a villain of this kind of. He's not playing a nice guy. He's playing an asshole, and it's sadly he's only in 3 scenes, and that's the second scene, and it's the best scene in the movie to me, and the one scene worth a shit. Because the rest of it is just dawdling around in disjointed fashion, and just don't care. Did not care about anything else in the movie other than Stallone's little performance. And really, that's all I can say about the flick. The music, I don't remember anything about. The direction was boring. A lot of the stories, like Kyra Sedgwick, she gets out of jail, then she wants to meet Tom Berenger, and she does. She loves him. Thomas Jane, he's a cop who likes to shoot bad guys when defending himself. Ask for forgiveness for Danny Aiello. That's it. Tom Berenger, it's just really. If it's trying to give me a message, it's not saying much of anything. It's nothing mind blowing. It's nothing. Oh my God, this is where the journey took us. Wow, I enjoyed the trip, and I enjoyed the reward, and there is none. It's just, it gets a 4.79 to be. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why not many people have reviewed this on YouTube, because if they try, it's gonna be hard, because there's not much to fucking say about the film. If you love it and you got much more out of it, good on you. I'm just reviewing this because I'm doing a Sylvester Stallone marathon and he's in it. And the 3 scenes he's in, someone uploaded on YouTube, and you can just watch them on YouTube. You don't need to see anything else about this film. Really, nothing at all. That's just my opinion, though. Either way, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.